Part 7. I took away the villain's son. Author, the great Onmyoji. Chapter 62. Ueda Tower, the 512th floor, surrounded by a dense forest. 9 heavens and 10 earths destroyed the sword's intention. The magical power was revealed, and a terrifying magical power with a world-destroying aura appeared out of thin air, condensed a long sword in the void, burned black flames, and instantly killed the 12 strong men exuding terrifying auras in front of him on the spot. Not only that, the extremely terrifying sword, the remaining thoughts split into more than 9,000 paths in an instant, burning all the mountains and forests in front of him. It is indeed a supreme supernatural power. If it's just in terms of attack, the 9 heavens and 10 earths great destruction sword intent is my strongest killing method at present. When caught unexpectedly, even the king can kill him instantly. Yang Hao's figure flickered, watching the corpses on the ground disappear instantly. His body was attracted by a strange attraction, and then disappeared without a trace, entering the next floor. The moment he entered the 513th floor, Yang Hao, after the supreme magical power such as the great destruction sword intention of 9 heavens and 10 earths was used in his body, the dim magical flame in the palace returned to its original state in an instant. Not only the magical flame in his body, everything on his body was controlled by the mysterious power. After being attracted, it returned to its original state. Of course, what followed was that the surrounding environment turned into heavy snow, and silhouettes appeared one after another in the snow in the distance. 13 figures in total. Each one exuded a creepy aura. These auras are connected together. If it is an ordinary magical power, it is impossible to say that it will be crushed to death by this aura. 13 heaven-defying princes. Yang Hao's eyes flickered and he grinned. He is not an ordinary magical power, and his divine body can fully withstand strong oppression. Not only will he not be afraid, but he will regard these heaven-defying princes as prey. The divine palace in his body is shaking violently at this moment. The dragon god is furious. 7-star god. God crying gun. One after another, the terrifying magical powers are continuous, rushing to kill these opponents like a torrential rain. The reason why he came to Ueda Tower was to test the power of his magical powers. Ueda Tower is very strange in the memory of Holy Sun Yaoguang. At each level, all the power consumed on the previous level will be restored by the mysterious power. On each level, there will also be opponents that are more terrifying than the previous level. The first 100 floors are all opponents of the same realm. Each time you ascend to a level, you will encounter more opponents than the previous level. For example, Yang Hao, on the 100th floor, had to face 100 practitioners of the magical power realm. After every 100 levels passed, the difficulty will leap forward, and the opponents that appear will directly exceed a level. The realm of supernatural power creates the foundation. The more complete the foundation, the higher the future achievements and the greater the potential. If you break through the realm of supernatural power with ordinary foundation, you will be destined to become only an ordinary prince and an ordinary powerful person in the future. If you have a perfect foundation and break through to the realm of supernatural power, you can become a monster prince or a monster power. After the foundation is cast, the foundation will be different, and the level will naturally be completely different. Each realm will be divided into 5 levels: ordinary, monster, invincible, supreme, and heaven-defying. Yang Hao activated his magical power crazily. He did not use the supreme magical power at this level, but chose the supreme magical power to fight against the enemy. Opposite him, 13 heaven-defying princes also broke out with terrifying combat power, and numerous magical powers. After using it, only one of the heaven-defying princes was killed on the spot. The other heaven-defying princes posed a powerful threat to Yang Hao. Rank means potential and combat power, which is almost impossible to reverse. Unless you get a shocking opportunity, such as taking the elixir of immortality, the emperor's inheritance. Correspondingly, the gap is naturally extremely large. The evil prince alone can sweep away many ordinary princes like Xia Yahao. An invincible prince can cross the border and kill ordinary kings. Prince of Defiance. At this moment, there is a heaven-defying royal family approaching, showing off its edge. A terrifying aura burned blazingly, and it was a terrifying realm that enveloped Yang Hao. Yang Hao, who has already had experience with these prince-level opponents, knows that if he is enveloped in it, even if he has the divine body of reincarnation and his physical body is indestructible, he will still escape death. Years. Yang Hao suddenly came out with his sword. In an instant, all the time around him changed completely. The heaven-defying prince began to age at a speed visible to the naked eye, and his movements naturally became much slower. The heaven-defying prince, to some extent, he is already comparable to some ordinary powers, extremely powerful. The supreme magical power, even the supreme magical power, is extremely difficult to pose a threat to these heaven-defying princes if it is not a powerful killing technique like the 9 heavens and 10 earths great destruction sword intent. Yang Hao took a deep breath and thought to himself, Holy Son of Yao Guang once heard from his aunt that the Wei Tower has 1,000 floors and was left by the Yongsheng Emperor, the founder of the Eternal Holy Land. If you can break through 1,000 levels, you can get an inheritance left by the Eternal Emperor. It's a pity that since the establishment of the Holy Land of Eternal Life, there have been countless amazing talents and extraordinary evildoers, but no one has been able to break the shackles. The strongest record currently is that of a magical monster named Yi in the Holy Land 3,000 years ago, who was on the 589th level. This is normal. After all, Wei Tower doesn't have to be able to go far just because of its strong cultivation. On the contrary, if you are weaker, you will have an advantage. According to the experience of the predecessors, the best time to break the record of Wei Tower is when the foundation has been established and before entering the princely realm. Wei Tower uses the strength of the tower climber to generate opponents of corresponding realms. If the strength is weak, the opponents generated will be weak. If the strength is strong, the opponents generated will also be strong. This is the special feature of Wei Tower. If I can clear the 500th floor and reach the 600th floor, then the opponents I encounter will be ordinary kings, and it will be much easier than now. It's probably impossible to break through the 1000th floor. I can still suppress the ordinary powerful ones, but there is no way I can defeat the evil powerful ones with my current strength. When my supernatural power is perfected and the foundation is built, I can come back and walk again. But now that we have come, let's try to break Yi's record. Yang Hao stepped onto the 500-story Wei Tower. He already had a clear understanding of his current strength and his own understanding of the magical powers he possessed. With his thoughts turning, Yang Hao looked at the offensive attack of the somewhat old King Nishan in front of him. Just after he dodged it, several powerful figures attacked him. 9 heavens and 10 earths destroyed the sword's intention. Yang Hao once again used his supreme killing power. Suddenly, the sword intent leaked out. The remaining 12 heaven-defying princes fell on the spot. I took away the villain's son. Author, the Great Onmyoji. Chapter 63. 586th floor. 587th floor. It's about to break Yi's record. Outside Wei Tower, there was complete silence. Everyone held their breath, waiting to witness history. At this moment, a figure walked out from the bottom of Wei Tower with his head held high and his face filled with joy. 140 floors. This time, it not only broke the record of fluctuating light, but also surpassed it by several levels. In this way, I will not only be able to receive awards from the Holy Land, but I can also prepare to break through to the true body realm. Yang Wuqiu is in a very good mood at the moment. In order to break the record of Holy Son of Yao Guang, he could have broken through to the magical power realm long ago, but he has been suppressing himself and constantly attacking the record left by Holy Son of Yao Guang in the Taoist realm. When an obsession that you have been thinking about for a long time is completed, no matter how calm your personality is, you will fall into excitement and be unable to extricate yourself. This is, how come there are so many people? Those are the great elder, the third elder, and the Holy Lord. Are they all here to see me climb Wea Tower? Yang Wukia walked out and saw many figures gathering outside Wea Tower. He just took a glance and found that these figures were the supreme beings of the eternal Holy Land. For a moment, Yang Wukia became even more excited. Stand up. If he can be favored by that elder or even the Holy Lord, he can be accepted as his personal disciple. I can also be like Yao Guang and Xiao Chong, rise against the sky and attract everyone's attention. In his opinion, the reason why Yao Guang was able to create a divine body is inseparable from the Holy Lord who loves him so much. If he is given the same opportunity, he can rise all the way and become an unparalleled genius. Yang Wukia's mind turned and he showed with more confidence and calmness. I stepped out of the Wea Tower with endless expectations in my heart. It's over. As expected of the Holy Son of Yao Guang, he actually broke history and became the most evil genius in the Holy Land of eternal life for so many years. 589 floors, horrible results. You should walk out without asking, dreaming of praise and adoration. But when he heard exclamations one after another, the smile that was still on his face suddenly froze. The Holy Son of Fluctuating Light. 589 floors. What else did they say? Yang Wukia was a little stunned and continued to move forward. But he found that at this moment, not to mention the supreme beings of the eternal Holy Land, even the disciples who originally worshipped and feared him, there was no one looking at him directly. Their eyes are still focused on Wea Tower. What happened? Yang Wukia's head felt a little heavy, and he looked at Wea Tower with these gazes. Then, his pupils gradually dilated. As if struck by lightning, it spread from his back, limbs, and bones to the top of his forehead, and a numb feeling started from the center of his scalp. It exploded and spread to the head like dense ripples. Holy Son of Light, during my time in Wea Tower, I climbed to the 589th floor, breaking the historical record of the Holy Land. Yang Wukia is a genius. He just listened attentively and looked up at the twinkling light on Wea Tower, and he already understood the whole story. Because of this, Yang Wukia felt even more desperate. He thought he was constantly catching up. The steps of a holy son had already shortened the distance a little, giving him some fighting spirit. But now, he had just walked out of the Wea Tower, and he knew very well what the 589th floor was like. How could he? Is this the divine body? There was endless bitterness in Yang Wukia's mouth. He knew that from today on, he would never be able to catch up with the Holy Son of Yao Guang. The two of them were forever separated in two worlds. Before he knew it, Holy Son of Light had transcended a distance he didn't know how far away and had become the most evil genius since the Holy Land was founded. Pity. At this time, no one paid attention to what Yang Wukia was thinking. Everyone's eyes were on the exit of Wea Tower. There, a figure was walking slowly and slowly. Pity. My magical power has been exhausted, and my divine body can no longer support it. At the same time, I don't have enough combat experience. If I can acquire one more supreme magical power, whether it is killing or defensive, I will definitely be able to reach the 600th level. Yang Hao was a little absent-minded at the moment, and he was intensely reviewing the last battle in his mind. He was summing up the gains and losses. He understood that there could be a chance to come back in Wea Tower, but if he encountered a life-or-death crisis in the future, he would not be given it. Such a chance to come back. The Holy Sun is invincible. Fluct Light is the strongest. The most powerful monster, the unparalleled genius. At this moment, an overwhelming cheer came. Yang Hao followed the voice and looked over, and at a glance he saw the Holy Lord who was smiling at him. Yao Guang, you broke the historical record of Wei Tower, what reward do you want? As long as they are available in the Holy Land, you can take your pick. One after another, the supreme beings of the eternal Holy Land appeared in front of Yang Hao. They looked at Yang Hao as if they were treasures, staring at Yang Hao with shining eyes and promising many rewards. No. I want the inheritance of the great emperor. Yang Hao chuckled when he heard this, but he pointed to the Wei Tower behind him from a distance. If he wanted the divine objects and opportunities in the Holy Land, why would he need these promises? As long as he wanted it, as long as she had it, her aunt would give it to him. Originally, she just came here even though he was testing the power of his magical powers, he never thought that he could reach such a high level. The only thing that has great attraction for Yang Hao right now is the inheritance in Wei Tower. Do you want the inheritance of the great emperor? Even if you break through to the 600th floor with Fluctlight, you are still far away from the 1000th floor. The reason why Wei Tower is provided for inner disciples to practice is because the inheritance left by the eternal emperor is like a castle in the air and cannot be obtained at all. The Wei Pagoda was just a pie deliberately drawn by the emperor in order to encourage his disciples. The supreme beings in these holy lands were stunned for a moment when they heard what Yang Hao said, and then they all tried to persuade him. Breaking all-time records is one thing. It's one thing to be able to reach the top. No one believes that Yang Hao can climb to the top of Wei Tower. It's not Yang Hao who can't do it. It's because the Wei Tower is clearly made difficult by the emperor. Even if other emperors are reincarnated, they can't climb to the top. I believe in fluctuating light. At this time, an extremely indifferent and condescending voice appeared, breaking all persuasion. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I took away the villain's son. Author, the great Onmyoji. Chapter 64. If you don't even dare to think about it, how can you do it? However, your potential is endless. Believe in yourself, and that's the way to go. The Holy Lord and Yang Hao were flying across the territory of the Eternal Holy Land, heading towards the Yaoguang Immortal Peak. After hearing the Holy Lord's words, Yang Hao's eyes flashed with light and he said with a smile, "Don't worry, Aunt. This great emperor's inheritance will be taken away as soon as my foundation is formed." His words made the Holy Lord smile with relief and said, "Auntie is looking forward to that moment." She walked out before and supported Yang Hao. Although the other Holy Land greats who were also present did not agree, they understood that the Holy Lord had always doted on Yang Hao. In addition, Yang Hao had just broken the historical record at this moment, and the shock to everyone was still there. The anger had not subsided, so no one spoke. On the contrary, the young and energetic disciples all spoke in support of Yang Hao, expecting Yang Hao to slap these old-fashioned powerful men in the face. At this moment, Yang Hao heard the Holy Master say, he also smiled. He was not aiming for nothing. Everyone thought that he had reached the peak of the magical realm, but only he and the Holy Master knew that he was far from reaching the extreme of the magical realm. Once he casts the foundation, it may not be impossible to climb 1,000 levels. Go up. The two of them have now arrived at Yaoguang Immortal Peak and entered Yang Hao's practice place. How many souls are you still missing? 38 ways. That's enough. Kindness. Yang Hao was slightly startled when he heard the words, and glanced at the Holy Master in shock. The Holy Master chuckled lightly, twirling his jade fingers, and in an instant, familiar brilliance appeared. Auntie, have you found the ancient tree of the world? Yang Hao looked at the souls that appeared in the hands of the Holy Lord. There were exactly 38 of them. Each one reached the immortal level. A bright light flashed in his eyes, and he suddenly understood. The Holy Lord had not left the Holy Land for long, but in a short time 38 souls were collected in a short period of time. It could only be that the Holy Lord found the ancient world tree. Only in the place where the ancient world tree exists can many immortal souls be found so quickly. Good. I did find a few ancient trees in the world. It's just that compared to the one from the Qingyang dynasty you mentioned, however, these ancient trees in the world have not grown to that level yet. Moreover, I also tried to help you extract the soul of the ancient tree of the world. But unfortunately, they all failed. The Holy Lord said with some regret. It's okay, I have a hunch that even if another world ancient tree is ignited, the harvest will most likely not be too great. Yang Hao couldn't help but be surprised when he heard that the Holy Lord had found several ancient trees in the world. He was indeed a Holy Lord level existence. With just a few words from him, he was able to discover these ancient trees that had not yet been born. As for the Holy Lord, he was also surprised. Yang Hao had no regrets about not successfully extracting the soul of the ancient tree in the world. He had long known from the memory of the Holy Son of Light that similar souls would ignite magical powers, and there was a high probability that the same magical powers would be born. This is true even for God-level souls. It would not be of much significance to Yang Hao to ignite another great spiritual energy technique. It would also occupy an additional position in his temple, which was not actually cost-effective. The Holy Master also had similar considerations, so he did not deliberately extract more for Yang Hao. Kindness. In addition, during this trip, I personally inspected the world's ancient trees. Don't worry about your previous worries. The Holy Lord said to Yang Hao again, there is nothing wrong with the aura created by the ancient tree of the world. You were hunted by many creatures before because you cut off their hope of evolution. Regardless of whether it is a ferocious beast or a demonic plant, it is instinctive to practice. If you cut off their opportunity, they will naturally be hunted down. Yang Hao breathed a sigh of relief after hearing this. The Holy Lord's explanation was very reasonable. Naturally, he would not think that a top powerhouse's judgment would be inferior to his. Sorry, Auntie. Next, I plan to suppress and ignite all 38 souls and start to build the foundation. It was only a little over half a year before the Emperor's remaining soul lectured on the Dharma. Yang Hao told the Holy Lord his plan. We should really seize the time. But don't rush into practice yet, let my aunt arrange it. But he heard the Holy Master speak somewhat mysteriously. The next scene left Yang Hao stunned. I took away the villain's son. Author, the Great Onmyoji. Chapter 65. The Holy Master expelled all the servants of Yaoguang Immortal Peak, and then took out an object, which made Yang Hao take a breath of cold air. This is, the ancient tree of the world. Auntie, you pulled down an entire ancient tree in the world. He watched in disbelief as a huge ancient tree suddenly appeared on the Yaoguang Immortal Peak. Although it was not as big as the one he had in the Qingyang dynasty world of all things, it was still not small, almost covering the entire tree. Half of the Yaoguang Immortal Peak was covered. As the ancient trees of the world fell, the intensity of spiritual energy in the Yaoguang Immortal Peak began to increase rapidly. Almost in the blink of an eye, the Yaoguang Immortal Peak, which was originally very rich in aura, appeared one after another in the void. Milky white water flowed continuously in the void. The spiritual energy in this area began to liquefy directly with the appearance of the ancient tree of the world. He. The Holy Lord chuckled softly when she heard this, and she said, this ancient tree in the world is a treasure, a thing without an owner. Since I have seen it, it is mine, so naturally I have to take it back. It's a pity that a few of them were damaged for you to extract the soul, otherwise it would have been better. She was in a good mood. This time she went out to look for the world's ancient trees. Not only did she find several, but she also got some opportunities, and all the injuries she suffered in Biwen were recovered. Yang Hao's face turned slightly when he heard the words of the Holy Lord. Some twitching. See it, it's mine. As expected, my aunt is still as domineering as ever. He secretly muttered in his heart that his aunt's behavior was really terrible. If not, she wouldn't have even obtained the supreme immortal bone and given it to him. I will bind this world's ancient tree here with the power of the magic circle, and you will practice in the Yaoguang immortal peak and build its foundation. The Holy Lord smiled at this moment. She flew up and created a series of mysterious patterns that even Yang Hao couldn't understand. Suddenly, barriers seemed to appear in all directions of the Yaoguang immortal peak, and the walls that were originally constantly moving outwards were blocked. The overflowing spiritual energy was completely sealed in the Yaoguang immortal peak. As the Holy Lord deployed the magic circle, the spiritual energy in the Yaoguang immortal peak became more intense, forming a rare stream of spiritual energy, like one baby dragon after another constantly flowing through the Yaoguang immortal peak. Hovering. What a terrifying aura! Yang Hao felt the terrifying spiritual energy in the Yaoguang immortal peak. He didn't even need to practice. He just breathed and endless spiritual energy poured into his body. In just this moment, it was comparable to 3 days of his usual practice. Don't worry, Auntie, I will definitely be able to build a supreme foundation. Yang Hao took a deep breath and said to the Holy Lord. I look forward to you breaking through the Wei Tower and receiving the inheritance from the great emperor. The Holy Lord smiled at Yang Hao and immediately disappeared from the Yaoguang immortal peak. When Yang Hao saw the Holy Lord leaving, he immediately began to put his mind into the palace without any hesitation. At the same time, small streams of spiritual energy formed by the water flow dragon, rushing towards Yang Hao's body crazily. Earn 200,000 points for perfectly suppressing the soul. Earn 200,000 points for perfectly suppressing the soul. Earn 200,000 points for ignite mystical power. Earn 500,000 points for breaking through the realm. Yang Hao is already familiar with suppressing divine souls and igniting magical powers. In just a few days, he ignited all the 38 divine souls sent by the Holy Lord this time. At the same time, his cultivation finally broke through to the 9th level of the supernatural realm. As my cultivation level increases, I get more points. When Yang Hao was practicing, he noticed that the points he got began to rise again. He did not hesitate to add all the points he got during this period to the newly ignited magical power. Done. At this moment, among my 81 divine palaces, each one has a magical flame. Among them, there are 3 supreme magical powers and 78 supreme magical powers. Even the legendary emperor would never have such an opportunity. Moreover, as my points continue to increase, I will eventually have a total of 81 supreme magical powers. Yang Hao's eyes flashed, but he threw all these distracting thoughts behind him. Now, I'm finally starting to lay the foundation. He glanced at himself with his spiritual thoughts. The divine body of reincarnation. The time pattern transformed from the 10 immortality patterns. The supreme immortal bone. 81 divine palaces, with the fire of supernatural powers burning brightly. Deo pattern, divine body, divine palace. Combine. Yang Hao mobilized all his power, and endless power surged out of his dantian instantly. At the same time, the shaking light immortal peak, with him as the center, produced an extremely violent vortex. The liquid spiritual energy, which was almost extremely rich, surged in. I was almost drained in an instant. I took away the villain's son. Author, the great Onmyoji. Chapter 66. Building a foundation is an extremely important event in this world. Because the foundation determines the future potential. Therefore, there are many genius monsters who would rather stay for many years just to build the most perfect foundation. For example, Xiao Chong practiced secret techniques and hibernated in the Qi and blood realm for 18 years. For example, Qiang and Tianqian saints stayed in the Taoist realm for more than 10 years, just waiting for the birth of the Wanlong Taoist temple. The importance of foundation is self-evident. Now, Yang Hao finally begins to build his own foundation. The foundation is the beginning of practice. Dantian transforms into the spiritual sea, the power of Deo patterns, the power of the physical body, the power of supernatural powers, the three gods merge into one, and the spiritual power is born, which can form the foundation. Therefore, the accumulation of Deo patterns, true body, and supernatural powers will all affect the final formation of the spiritual sea. Ordinary foundation, the spiritual sea is small, it can only accommodate 10,000 spiritual powers at first, and it will be slow to open up again in the future. With a perfect foundation and a wide spiritual sea, it can initially accommodate 30,000 spiritual powers. It will open up again at an average speed in the future. A perfect foundation, initially capable of containing 100,000 spiritual powers, but it can be developed again very quickly in the future. The Supreme Foundation initially accommodated 500,000 spiritual powers, and was able to be opened up again very quickly in the future. The Supreme Foundation initially accommodates millions of spiritual powers and will open up on its own all the time in the future. 5 foundations, corresponding to the 5 levels. Once cast, even if they are in the same realm, they are completely different. Yang Hao promoted the union of the three gods in his body, and information about the foundation naturally appeared in his mind. At this moment, all the power gathered in his danshan, as if experiencing a chaotic explosion, giving birth to a mysterious sea of stars. Is this the sea of spiritual energy? Sensing the changes in his body, Yang Hao knew that the prototype of his foundation had appeared. It was a sea of stars filled with colorful stars and endless divine flowers. It was endless, boundless, and vast to the extreme. As the sea of stars opened up, there was no end. Endless spiritual energy began to be absorbed by him from the outside world and began to fill this vast sea of stars. Apart from the spiritual energy, there were other movements coming. A piece of supreme immortal bone as white as jade, like a star, slowly emerged from the original body of Yang Hao. The position slowly penetrated towards the sea of stars. On the supreme immortal bone, the 10 immortal Deo patterns also flickered at this moment, constantly emitting mysterious Deo rhymes, heading towards the edge of Yang Hao's sea of stars. It seemed that they were opening up territory for Yang Hao's sea of stars. No wonder the Supreme Foundation can open up the sea of spiritual energy all the time. When the quality of the sea of spiritual energy reaches an extremely high level, it can carry the previous accumulation into the sea of spiritual energy instead of hanging outside the ocean of spiritual energy. The Supreme Immortal Bone has entered my sea of spiritual energy first. Next, there is a long integration process. My Taoist patterns, magical flames, and physical energy and blood will slowly enter, opening up a sea of spiritual energy. Yang Hao took a deep breath. He knew the process of building a foundation and couldn't rush it. Every accumulation he had made before would be turned into an increase in the foundation at this time. In the future, he would continue to open up his star sea and increase its capacity. Supreme Foundation, no more suspense. The most dangerous combination of the three gods to build the foundation has passed. Although he has already predicted what kind of foundation he can build, Yang Hao is still excited in his heart at this moment. This means that when the great age comes, he already has something qualifications to compete with those peerless geniuses. You must know that when the Holy Lord dug up the supreme immortal bones for him earlier, he only expected him to create a perfect foundation. A perfect foundation corresponds to an invincible rank, which is already considered powerful in this era. But now, he had easily created the strongest supreme foundation. But soon, Yang Hao found that he had thought wrong. As time passed, one after another accumulated into his sea of spiritual energy, and more filled with spiritual energy. In my sea of spiritual energy, more than 500,000 spiritual powers have been born. And this 500,000 spiritual energy only occupies a small piece of my sea of spiritual energy. This has exceeded the specifications that the Supreme Foundation should have. Yang Hao's heart beat suddenly, and he knew that he was still making rapid progress. The time it took Yang Hao to lay the foundation was longer than imagined. In the blink of an eye, Half a year has passed. In the Holy Land of Eternal Life, powerful saints and saints have returned one after another. 3 days later, it will be the day when the tomb of the Eternal Emperor will be opened. Does the great Emperor's remnant soul teach the Dharma? Really looking forward to it. A holy son in purple robes returned. His eyes were very distinctive. They were clearly opened, but they were still like a line. Tianquan, I heard that your title of #1 genius in the Holy Land was taken away by that little guy Yao Guang. It's really surprising that this waste who was originally spoiled by the Holy Lord can actually grow up. Behind the Holy Sun, a burly bear-like figure appeared, carrying a strong sense of oppression. The first genius? Let's talk about it after we can grow up. However, I am very interested in his true immortal body. I heard that it is in the same line as the Eternal Emperor. I hope he can let me study it when the time comes. The Holy Sun Tianquan smiled, his tone was casual and he didn't care. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I took away the villain's son. Author, the great Onmyoji. Chapter 67. Time passed, and 3 days passed in the blink of an eye. Today, the founder of the Eternal Holy Land, his tomb of the great Emperor will be opened. Rather than saying it is the mausoleum of the Eternal Emperor, it is better to say it is a tomb. Crunch, crunch. The Emperor has gained great freedom and freedom. Who knows whether the Eternal Emperor is really dead or fake? Crunch. The Holy Land of Eternal Life is a secret place with only a few people. A cute girl seemed to be talking to herself, while holding a slender bone in her hand, chewing it continuously, making a crunching sound. Senior Sister Tianji, don't slander the Emperor at will. If the Emperor had not fallen, where would this tomb come from? Beside the girl, a young man with a cold face said. Senior Brother Yu Heng and Senior Sister Tianji are also right. Although the Eternal Emperor died in battle in the past, who actually saw that battle? Sage Qiang said with a smile. He. At this time a laugh came from. The Emperor's soul is in the tomb, why not go in and ask? Great Emperor, even though it is just a wisp of soul, it still makes people look forward to it. The Holy Son of Tianquan, who was always squinting, also appeared. Behind him was the extremely burly Holy Son of Tianzhu. Except for Tianquan, Tianzhu, Yu Heng, Qiang, and Tianji who were present, no one else. After a while, Saint Tianqian also slowly arrived. In this secret place, at this moment in the Holy Land of Eternal Life, there are 6 saints and saints in total, except for Fluttering Light, almost all of them are present. Fluct Light hasn't arrived yet. At this time, a majestic voice came. The great elder of the Holy Land suddenly appeared, looked around, frowned slightly and asked. Among the 7 saints and saints of the Eternal Holy Land, only one of them lacked the fluctuating light at this moment. I heard from the Holy Master that the shaking light was casting the foundation, and it was probably too late to open the tomb of the great Emperor this time. Another powerful being appeared and said expressionlessly. This person is the 3rd elder of the Holy Land of Eternal Life. In addition to the great elder and the 3rd elder, there is another powerful being, the 4th elder of the Holy Land. 3 elders appear. In this secret place, it is enough to see that the Holy Land of Eternal Life attaches great importance to opening the tomb of the great Emperor. Build a foundation. The great elder frowned slightly and said slowly, it doesn't matter, if you haven't established the foundation, you won't be able to listen to the Emperor's lectures. The teachings given by the Emperor's ghost are the rules left by the Emperor. Only my holy son and holy daughter of the Holy Land of Eternal Life are qualified to receive this special opportunity. You are the only one who can enter the mausoleum. You only have one chance. You must cherish it. The tomb will be opened later, you go in first. The mausoleum can only be opened for 7 days. If you miss the fluctuating light, you will only miss it. he said to the saints headed by Tianquan. Yes. Whether it was the Holy Lady Tianji who was eating a bone or the Holy Son Tianquan who was smiling, they all responded one after another. Great Elder, why do I remember that the mausoleum can only be opened for a maximum of 3 days? After more than 3 days, it will cost a lot to keep the tomb open. Fluct Light, isn't it worth it? At this time, there was an inappropriate voice. Holy Son Yuhang said in a gloomy tone, with a dissatisfied tone. Yuhang, this is not something you need to worry about. Fluct Light has privileges, of course. I thought it was inappropriate, so I went to break the record of Wei Pagoda. You have no objection to closing the mausoleum today. The great elder glanced at Holy Son Yuhang. He knew that this Holy Son was jealous and had a bad character, so he said coldly. When Holy Son Yuhang heard this, his face suddenly turned blue. He is about to become a king now, go. Breaking the Wei Tower? Not to mention 500 floors, even 200 floors may not be broken. Huh, lucky guy. Looking at the unmoved attitude of many elders, and then looking at the other saints with gloating eyes. Holy Son Yuhang snorted coldly, but stopped talking. I can only take care of you so much. The great elder glanced at the end of Tianque, which was in the direction of Yaoguang Immortal Peak, and closed his eyes to concentrate. Normally, the mausoleum can be opened for up to 3 days. After sending Xiao Chong away, he chose to invest in Yaoguang, which naturally made Yaoguang more convenient. But keeping the tomb open requires a lot of resources. Even the Holy Land of Eternal Life with a big business cannot always open the tomb of a great emperor. The most critical thing is that on the 4th day after entering the tomb of the great emperor, the soul of the great emperor will be there will be a lecture. By then, even if he continues to open the entrance to the tomb, Yang Hao will not have the chance to listen to the emperor's lecture. Therefore, 7 days is already the limit. This is because the fluctuating light appears now, too dazzling, and other eternal life the powerful beings of the Holy Land have no objections. If it were other saints, the eternal Holy Land would never give such privileges. Senior brother Tianquan, if you step out this time, you should be half powerful. The whole place was silent, but the Holy Son Yuhang spoke again and said very friendly to Tianquan. Soon. It depends on whether the emperor will give him a chance. Holy Son Tianquan looked at Holy Son Yuhang with a smile and said indifferently. As expected of senior brother Tianquan. In my opinion, after this lecture by the emperor's remnant soul, senior brother Tianquan will definitely be able to survive in the hands of the emperor for an hour, and there is a high probability that he will be able to obtain a piece of the emperor's inheritance by then. In less than 10 years, my senior brother will become a powerful person and become the youngest elder in our Holy Land in 10,000 years. Holy Son Yuhang praised and flattered him again. Hearing this, Holy Son Tianquan smiled and said nothing. He just looked at him deeply. Senior brother Yuhang is still so sinister and shameless. His cultivation level is only lower than that of senior brother Tianquan. If senior brother Tianquan breaks through, he can enjoy senior brother Tianquan's chief treatment. The Holy Son of Qiang, who was standing on the edge, said to the saint of Tianqian who was standing not far away from him. Both of them had just established their foundations. Compared with the other saints, their cultivation levels were much lower. Naturally, have something more to say. Pity. The fluctuating light came out. The saint of Tianqian said quietly. She and Yang Hao once went to the realm of all things together and personally experienced Yang Hao's abnormality. Naturally, she stood on Yang Hao's side. Indeed, if Yaoguang rises strongly, senior brother Yuhang will only be able to enjoy the privileges of the chief holy son for 100 years at most. No wonder senior brother Yuhang is hostile to Yaoguang. Speaking of which, if Yaoguang missed the emperor's lecture this time, he might not be able to catch up in a short time. Holy Son Qiang smacked his lips when he heard this. He was also a monster, and he originally didn't think he would be worse than fluttering light. However, as Yang Hao forged the divine body and broke the historical record of Wei Tower, Holy Sun Qiang has already he knew that he was not as good as Fluct Light. So he didn't have too many emotions at the moment, and his analysis was very objective. That's not necessarily the case. The Holy Lady Tianxian smiled when she heard this. She didn't know why she was full of confidence in Yao Guang. Rumble. A series of terrifying roars came. On this secret land, a ripple of void appeared. The tomb of the great emperor is opened. Go in on your own and find your own opportunities. The great elder's voice fell, and the figures of the saints and saints of the eternal Holy Land filed in and headed towards the entrance of the emperor's tomb. Fluct Light, hasn't the foundation been laid yet? Seeing the saints and saints entering, the great elder sent a message to the Holy Lord who was guarding outside the Yao Guang Immortal Peak. I took away the villain's son. Author, the great Onmyoji. Chapter 68. How could this little guy spend so long building a foundation? Outside the shaking light immortal peak, the Holy Lord also frowned slightly, his expression slightly solemn. Casting the foundation is a hard work and takes time. Generally speaking, 3 months is more than enough time to build a supreme foundation. She paved the way for Yang Hao more than half a year in advance because she was worried that Yang Hao would not be able to catch up with the emperor's remaining soul to teach the Dharma. But I never thought that something unexpected happened. Could it be that something unexpected happened when the foundation was being cast? The Holy Lord looked at Yao Guang Immortal Peak, with a hint of worry in his eyes. At this moment, the huge immortal peak was filled with countless spiritual liquids. The ancient tree of the world was transplanted to Yao Guang Immortal Peak, and the spiritual energy was imprisoned in one place by her. Endless the spiritual energy turned into liquid, so rich that even the Holy Lord could not judge. The only thing that was certain was that Yang Hao was still alive at this moment, and his life breath was extremely strong. She did not dare to disturb Yang Hao's foundation casting. Foundation casting was a very personal matter, even someone as powerful as her could not directly intervene in the matter. At this moment, the great elder's message came to his ears, and the Holy Master looked to the northeast. The mausoleum is opened. The Holy Lord's face darkened slightly, and he once again sent a message to the Yao Guang Immortal Peak. However, the tomb has been opened. Don't be impatient. If the foundation cannot be laid within 7 days, there is no need to pay attention to this matter. When your foundation is complete, I will find an opportunity for you that is no worse than the great emperor's remaining soul's teaching. After her message fell, it still fell into silence without any response. But the Holy Lord is the Holy Lord after all, so she no longer urged her. Instead, she closed her eyes and meditated in the void. From the beginning to the end, she never cared. What kind of foundation will Yang Hao create? She believes that Yang Hao will definitely be able to shock everyone again. Time passes like this. 1 day. 2 days. The 6th day. There is only 1 day left before the emperor's tomb is closed. No matter how the great elder transmitted the message, the eternal Holy Lord never bothered Yang Hao again, but just meditated calmly, without any rush or impatience. On this day, the Yao Guang Immortal Peak trembled slightly. Suddenly, the eternal Holy Lord opened his beautiful eyes. Finished. How could there be no vision at all? The eyes of the eternal Holy Lord were fixed on the Yao Guang Immortal Peak, and their gazes were locked. Forged with the supreme foundation, it will definitely cause strange phenomena. But at this moment, the Yao Guang Immortal Peak only trembled slightly, and there was no sign of anything unusual. Could it be that there is no supreme foundation? The Holy Lord immediately rejected such an idea. The longer it takes to build the foundation, the stronger the foundation is. If Yang Hao can't create the supreme foundation, then who can? Auntie, you work hard to protect me every time. At this moment, a mellow and soft voice sounded, like a humble gentleman. Yang Hao's figure walked out of the Yaoguang Immortal Peak in a hurry. The Eternal Holy Lord looked at Yang Hao's figure, and his beautiful eyes flashed with surprise. She could tell at a glance it can be seen that Yang Hao is now many times more powerful than before. The foundation is laid. But the supreme foundation. Hearing the words of the Eternal Holy Lord, Yang Hao chuckled and responded, it hasn't been completely cast yet, but it's almost there. Hearing this, the Eternal Holy Lord immediately raised his eyebrows and said in a somewhat serious tone, but something went wrong. The look between her eyebrows was full of worry. After all, it took too long for Yang Hao to build the foundation. Even if it was her first time, it would be troublesome if something goes wrong because of this. Yang Hao heard this, but he said calmly, "Auntie, don't worry. I only have one last step left to create it. Thanks to my aunt's help, the foundation created this time has surpassed the unparalleled. The reason why I stepped out was that I deliberately did not perfect the foundation." He sensed the sea of spiritual energy at this moment. There was a star-studded area, and almost endless spiritual energy, which was continuously drawn from the mysterious void. If the sea of spiritual energy with the supreme foundation is vast and stable, then the sea of spiritual energy in the body can be said to be vast and boundless, just like the Milky Way. With just the last bit left, it can hold tens of millions of spiritual energy. He didn't expect that the sea of spiritual energy in his body would eventually grow to such a terrifying level. It was almost 10 times stronger than the supreme foundation. There is no doubt that this is due to the accumulation of horror. Do you want? The Holy Lord's beautiful eyes flashed, obviously extremely surprised. She didn't doubt Yang Hao at all. Since Hao said that he had created the foundation of transcendence, he must have created it. Hearing the meaning of Yang Hao's words, the Holy Lord vaguely guessed Yang Hao's purpose. She said thoughtfully, "There is not enough time. The mausoleum will be closed in only one day. You should perfect your foundation now and go to Fenglingdu. Fenglingdu is the secret place at the entrance to the tomb." After hearing the Holy Lord's words, Yang Hao grinned and said, "That's enough. Auntie, wait for me." After saying that, there was like a stream of light under his feet, which instantly turned into an afterimage and disappeared from the Yaoguang Immortal Peak. This confident little guy. The Holy Master saw that Yang Hao was indeed flying very fast in the direction she expected, and immediately followed him helplessly. Yang Hao's destination was not far from Yaoguang Immortal Peak. Wei Tower. Here, there are still many people. A large number of inner disciples gathered. The opening of the emperor's tomb was an opportunity for the saints, and they were not qualified to know. The Holy Son of Fluctuating Light. Why is he here again? After half a year, are you going to challenge Wei Tower again? With the talent of the Holy Son of Fluttering Light, he should be able to step onto the 600th floor this time, right? It's hard to say, how can it be so easy? A series of curious discussions from the inner disciples had just begun, and Yang Hao's figure had already entered the Wei Tower. Next, everyone was completely shocked. The Wei Tower shines brightly. 100 floors. 200 floors. 500 floors. 600 floors. 900 and 999 floors. From beginning to end, there was no pause at any level. The light of the Wei Tower has never been like this before, flickering like a revolving lantern. In just 2 hours, Yang Hao had already climbed to the 999th floor of Wei Tower, as if this tower was an empty tower. Let Yang Hao gallop. But everyone knows that this is simply impossible. The only possibility is for the Holy Son of Light to kill him all the way. Opponents on every level were instantly killed by the Holy Son of Fluttering Light upon meeting them. Subsequently, the 1000th layer of light was lit for the first time since the Eternal Holy Land was established and the Wei Tower stood tall. Wei Tower, someone climbed to the top. OMG! The Holy Son of Light has been inherited by the great Emperor. Trembling voices came one after another. The next moment, the holy land of eternal life shook. Everyone knows that today is the day when the legend was born. I took away the villain's son. Author, the great Onmyoji. Chapter 69. The holy land of eternal life was shaken. It's really shocking. With Wea Tower as the center, thousands of miles away, everything is trembling crazily. Waves of brilliance flashed out, completely expelling everyone who was still in Wea Tower at this moment. Wea Tower. It's flying. What's going on? What happened to Wea Tower? All the inner disciples looked at the Wea Tower in great shock. As the holy land of eternal life trembled, this sacred object for the inner disciples to practice actually flew up after the holy son Yaoguang climbed to the top. Not only that, the terrifying aura of Wang Huang spread out in all directions while the Wea Tower flew up. Imperial soldiers. The Wea Tower turned out to be an extremely powerful imperial weapon. How can it be? One after another, the powerful men of the eternal Holy Land appeared one after another after feeling the strange movement. They looked at the scene in front of them and sensed the breath released by the Wea Tower. They were all as if they were struck by lightning and were shocked inexplicably. Although it was early, they knew that Wea Pagoda was a rare treasure, but no one thought that Wea Pagoda would actually be an extremely powerful imperial weapon. The Yongsheng Emperor actually has one more piece of his ultimate imperial weapon. The Holy Lord, who had been present for a long time, was also shocked at this moment. When she flew into the sky at Wea Tower, she had already understood that the legend was true. After climbing to the top of Wea Tower, the inheritance of the great emperor really appeared. But even she did not expect that, the Wea Tower is the inheritance of the great emperor. The Jidao imperial armaments are the Jidao divine weapons that the emperor sacrificed with his heart and soul. Their power is unparalleled and is the foundation of every holy land. In a holy land with the Jidao imperial armaments, even the sages will know how to do it. Being beheaded. It is enough to show the terror of the Jida imperial armament. Now, Yang Hao, who has not yet established the foundation, has directly received the inheritance of the great emperor, a Jida imperial armament. How can this not shock the holy master? Yang Hao is at this moment he was also shaken in his heart. He did not expect that he would get such an opportunity. Miraculous thoughts came in one after another, and he knew the many magical uses of Wea Tower. At the same time, he also had control over Wea Tower. Waiting for Yang Hao sensed carefully and heard a series of extremely excited voices, covering the world. The Emperor protects the Holy Land. Thank you, Emperor. Thank you, Holy Son of Light. Many powers from the eternal Holy Land, and even living fossils, appeared one after another. They were so excited that they trembled and bowed to Wea Tower, which turned into the Emperor's soldiers in the void. They thanked the Holy Son of Yaoguang for his contribution. This thing is a fluctuating light. Holy Lord Hong Kong said calmly. She knew what these old monsters wanted to do. For any holy land, the Jidao imperial soldiers are the foundation and need to be left under the control of the Holy Land. Even if the shaking light activates the Wea Tower, those who have received the inheritance from the great emperor also need to hand over. Girl Zhang, this is natural. But Yaoguang's strength is low, so he may not be able to keep this extremely powerful imperial weapon. Why don't you let me take charge first, and wait until the fluctuating light becomes stronger in the future? It is most appropriate to leave it to Zhang Yedu. One by one, the living fossils came out and said to the Holy Lord. Some of them have selfish motives, while others are thinking about the Holy Land. The Eternal Emperor left a legacy, whoever gets it will have the opportunity. I don't need it, and you don't want to reach out. Otherwise, there are consequences at your own risk. The Holy Lord was extremely domineering and spoke directly. What appeared at the same time as her words was a terrifying pressure, covering all the living fossils and old monsters that appeared in the Holy Land. Sage. Girl Zhang has become a sage. He is really talented, he is only one step away from becoming the great emperor. But the Jidao Emperor's weapons are not idle. You can keep them temporarily, but you can't keep the Fluchtlight. If it is lost, the responsibility is too great. The terrifying pressure caused these living fossils and old monsters in the Holy Land to tremble. They had no idea that the Holy Lord would be so tough. However, the mausoleum is about to be closed, why don't you go quickly? The Holy Lord flew across the sky and continued to erupt with monstrous power. He said coldly. Yang Hao, who had already obtained the Jidao Emperor armament, was slightly startled. He had realized that the opportunity he had obtained this time was too great. Even in the Holy Land, there were people who couldn't hold it back. Cai silk touching people's hearts. It would be fine if he got the skills or other rare treasures this time. But now that the Jidao Emperor soldier is born, although his life will not be in danger, if there is no Holy Master, I am afraid that the Jidao Emperor who just got it soldiers will be temporarily kept. The situation is tense and the situation seems to be on the verge of breaking out. He. But he heard Yang Hao chuckle, which made the Holy Master and all the old monsters stunned, and they all looked at Yang Hao. This little guy, can't you see the situation clearly? How can you still laugh now? Holy Lord, seniors, why are you so excited? The inheritance left by the great emperor is naturally left to the inheritors. Otherwise, if I work hard to climb the Wei Tower, am I just playing monkey tricks on you seniors? At this moment, Yang Hao spoke calmly, but his words were full of laughter and curses, showing his sharp edge. Even if you want to help me keep this Jidao Emperor weapon, I can't help you. It has merged with my blood. Unless the Emperor comes, no one can take it away. On the other hand, I seem to have discovered that the Yakuza Imperial soldier can self-destruct. Yang Hao said word by word, if any of you bully my aunt today, when I grow up in the future, don't blame me for holding grudges. These junior brothers and sisters should all know that I am not big-minded at all. Of course, if you seniors are interested in watching some fireworks today, Fluttering Light wouldn't mind either. Yang Hao said, looking at the stunned Holy Land disciples, showing his white teeth and smiling extraordinarily innocently. As his words fell, the whole place was silent. Even the Holy Lord looked at Yang Hao in astonishment. She never expected that Yang Hao would be tougher than him at this moment. Just now, she just planned to fight with these old monsters and demonstrate. But Yao Guang actually threatened these old monsters directly. How arrogant this is! How lawless is this! Auntie's love for you is not in vain. The Holy Lord's breath gradually subsided at this moment, and he smiled softly at Yang Hao, with soft eyes and contentment in his heart. No matter how arrogant and domineering Yang Hao was, she still found Yang Hao particularly pleasing to her eyes. Compared to the Holy Lord, these old monsters were more stunned. A holy son whose foundation has not yet been cast dared to threaten them. But, they can only accept it. Yang Hao's words seemed young, frivolous, and arrogant. But it really stepped on the painful feet of these powerful people. Yang Hao is the holy son of the Holy Land, and the Holy Lord is a saint. They just wanted to borrow the Jidao Imperial soldier. Now, the Jidao Imperial armament is blended with the Yao Guang bloodline, and not only cannot be borrowed, but this little guy also threatens them with the Imperial armament's self-destruction. If it were anyone else, these old monsters would naturally sneer at him. But these old monsters know it very well. Yao Guang has the same true immortal body as the Eternal Emperor. Wei Tower is the ultimate imperial weapon left behind by the Eternal Emperor, and the probability of blending with the Yao Guang bloodline is extremely high. If a Jidao imperial weapon really exploded by itself, even these old monsters would probably die on the spot. This is his own holy son, and he has a bright future. Not only can they not hurt him now, but they also need to care for him like a baby. Very, very good, It turns out that a hero comes out of a boy. He is worthy of being chosen as the inheritor by the emperor. I hope you can carry forward this ultimate imperial weapon. You need to choose a protector who will allow you to grow completely and become the next holy master of the eternal Holy Land. One after another, the old monsters spoke out. They were all people who had experienced countless scenes. They were able to bend and stretch, and they had a long-term perspective. They changed their appearance and highly respected Yang Hao. Some people even appointed Yang Hao to be the next holy master. But this is natural. A peerless evildoer who can possess the ultimate emperor's weapons, once he grows up, his future is limitless. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I took away the villain's son. Author, the great Onmyoji. Chapter 70. Come in quickly, don't delay. If you use your talents to shine, you will definitely gain a lot this time. This time you come out of the mausoleum, you may consider letting me be your protector. The voices of old monsters spoke one after another. They escorted Yang Hao all the way from the original location of Wei Tower to Fenglingdu. The Great Elder, the Third Elder and other extremely powerful men who were responsible for opening the tomb and could not leave were completely shocked when they saw this scene. Master! Ancestor! These extremely strong men were stunned when they saw the old monsters appearing. Although they sensed the movement of Wei Tower, because the mausoleum here was opened and everything was covered, they did not know that Yang Hao had received the inheritance from the emperor and personally gave birth to a supreme emperor weapon. Therefore, they were extremely shocked at this moment. The reason why the Holy Land of Eternal Life is extremely powerful is because the powerful people in the Holy Land of Eternal Life have extremely long lifespans, and many old monsters are still alive. But even so, these old monsters have long ignored world affairs, unless there are major changes in the Holy Land, and they are cultivating in hiding on weekdays. Now, the Holy Son of Fluctuating Light suddenly appeared and praised him in an extremely kind tone, which really made them a little confused. Could it be that there is something abnormal about the foundation cast by the fluctuating light, or is there another strange phenomenon? No matter what the First Elder, Third Elder, and others guessed, Yang Hao would naturally not know. Escorted by a group of old monsters, he walked into the entrance of the Emperor's tomb with great confidence. First get the opportunity of the great Emperor's tomb, and then study the Wei Tower. As Yang Hao stepped in, he sensed that the sea of spiritual energy had entered his body and turned into a small tower called the Wei Tower. The Jidao Emperor's weapons were extremely complicated. Even if he inherited them through the Wei Tower, he could make this Jidao. The Emperor's soldiers were blended with his blood. But because of this, Yang Hao understood how mysterious the Wei Tower was. It was impossible to understand and control it without spending a lot of effort. At this moment, he had entered the Emperor's tomb. In front of him, there was an extremely long road. There is a mysterious and dim aura lingering in the air. The road has no end in sight, as if there is no life at all. Huanquan Road. According to my aunt, the tomb of the immortal emperor is an extremely long and narrow Huanquan Road. The eternal emperor once left a famous saying. Stepping onto the underworld leads to eternal life. I'm talking about this Huanquan Road. The soul of the great emperor is at the end of Huanquan Road. Under the erosion of this terrifying underworld aura, the further you can walk, the clearer and more the principles of the Dharma taught by the emperor can be heard. Yang Hao's eyes flickered and he stepped on it without hesitation. Although I am a step late, there is still one day left. With my current strength, I should be able to go very far. Kindness. Yang Hao paused and was surprised to find that he could not set foot on this road to hell. A terrible force was blocking him. If it weren't for the spiritual energy blocking the sea of spiritual energy, he might have been swallowed by this terrible force on the spot. Correct. The road to hell requires a foundation before you can embark on it. Only spiritual energy can resist this terrible aura of underworld. Yang Hao suddenly said, I was distracted by those old monsters, and I actually forgot to break through. At this moment, he remembered that in order to climb the Wei Tower, he deliberately did not take the last step in the magical realm. At this time, he still had not established a foundation. Naturally, he could not embark on the road to hell. Then, let's break through. His eyes were filled with brilliance. The next moment, the sea of spiritual energy in his body began to rotate slowly. The stars transformed from the supreme immortal bones formed circles of halo, constantly cleansing the spiritual energy and sweeping everything. 10. The Taoist marks of immortality spread throughout the sea of spiritual energy, and Wang Yang was free to follow the regular flow of the Taoist marks of time. In the end, 81 magical powers turned into the most terrifying flaming stars. Countless tiny stars slowly appeared. These stars, it was Yang Hao who used the 9 nether prison suppression technique to suppress the billions of demons in his body, and printed out the terrifying power. What surprised Yang Hao most was that the Wei Tower actually appeared at the same time to help him suppress the surging demons at this moment. The spiritual sea is overwhelming. Become. It fell softly. But it was like thunder. Not only Yang Hao's body, but also the entire Huangquan road in front of him began to tremble. What happened? On the Huangquan road, far ahead, Saint Tianqian was shocked to feel that the Huangquan road under her feet suddenly began to tremble. Has the Emperor's ghost appeared? No, the time has not come yet. In the front, Tianquan, who was dressed in purple, opened his eyes to the maximum, and finally seemed to open his eyes slightly. He didn't understand. He didn't understand why there was a change in Huangquan road. Ha ha ha, the Huangquan road has changed. Although it is not too far away, Yao Guang has missed this opportunity. Far behind Tianquan, Holy Sun Yuhang felt the strange movement on the Huangquan road. After some contemplation, he chuckled. What he was most worried about was that Holy Sun Yao Guang could catch up. Now that there is a strange movement on the underworld road, the Emperor left the soul appeared, and the fluctuating light was destined to miss this opportunity. The other saints and saints who entered the Emperor's tomb also had mixed reactions and were confused. But at this moment, at the intersection of Huangquan, Yang Hao's whole body was as bright as the sun, dazzling at this moment. He successfully laid the foundation and stepped into the formation realm, which is what ordinary people call the prince level. Now, you can take the Huangquan road. Yang Hao chuckled and was about to embark on the road to hell again. Something unexpected happened to him. That is, the soul of the great emperor. All the saints and saints on the Huangquan road saw a shadow slowly appearing at the end of the road. Although it was just a shadow, the aura it gave off made everyone's hair stand on end. Such a terrifying aura, even if even the strongest person they have ever seen in the Holy Land of Eternal Life does not possess it. There is no doubt that this can only be the soul of the great emperor. He really appeared one day in advance. Great Emperor, why are you moving? The Holy Son of Tianquan looked at the end of Huangquan road with puzzled eyes. The shadow actually started to move, getting closer and closer to him. Legend has it that the great emperor would only preach at the end of the road. Why would he move now? He is coming towards me. Holy Sun Yuhang swallowed subconsciously and looked at the figure of the great emperor walking towards him. All the saints and saints thought that the soul of the great emperor was coming close to them, and they were extremely excited. However, sand. On the road to the underworld, the emperor's ghost made an obscure sound as it moved. With everyone's expectations, the emperor's ghost finally passed through them indifferently and headed towards the intersection of Huangquan. Then, he stopped in front of Yang Hao, who was about to step onto the intersection of Huangquan and was a little stunned. Now, let's start teaching the Fa. The sound is like a loud bell, but also an ethereal voice. It resounds in everyone's ears. I took away the villain's son. Author, the Great Onmyoji. Chapter 71. No one expected that the ghost of the great emperor would suddenly appear and start teaching the Dharma in advance. This is totally against common sense. All the saints on the Huangquan road looked directly at the soul of the great emperor in shock. So, who is that? As the emperor's relic stopped, he gradually discovered that, to the left and right of the emperor's relic, a vague silhouette stood quietly beside him. This figure was extremely familiar. Just when Qiang Saint's son was puzzled, this figure gradually becomes clear. Fluct light. The beautiful eyes of Tianqian Saint, who was also on the Huangquan road, widened and her pupils shrank sharply, showing an incredible look. Damn it! When did he come in? Could it be said that the great emperor's soul suddenly appeared because of him? Many saints were shocked, but Holy Sun Yuhang's face was gloomy and dark. He was glad that Yao Guang missed such a great opportunity to teach the emperor's soul. But he never thought that Yao Guang had not only entered the mausoleum, and was also favored by the emperor's soul, standing beside him to teach him the Dharma. How did this happen? How did he do it? Holy Sun Yuhang was puzzled. Since the emergence of the tomb of the eternal emperor, has any senior in the Holy Land encountered such a situation? The squinting Holy Son of Tianquan looked deeply at the end of the emperor's relic, his eyes flickering undetectably, thinking. Even Yang Hao was extremely surprised at this moment as he looked at the emperor's relic next to him. He was so far away from the emperor's relic. The soul is the closest, but he can still only see the phantom of the emperor's remnant soul, and cannot see the reality clearly. But this cannot blur Yang Hao's perception. Powerful. Too powerful. He has witnessed the explosion of the Holy Lord before. The power of the saints, the terrifying scene of many old monsters connecting together. However, compared to the relic of the great emperor in front of him, he instinctively believed that this relic of the great emperor was more threatening. He even had a premonition that even if he uses all his trump cards, he may not be able to shake the soul of the great emperor at all. Is this the emperor? Just a wisp of remnant soul can cause such terrifying oppression. The power of the emperor. A thought flashed through Yang Hao's mind. He knew that perhaps in terms of strength, this emperor's remnant soul might not be the opponent of the Holy Lord. But the relic's own majesty of the emperor seemed to show the power of the past. The terror of the great emperor makes people feel awe. Enter the mausoleum and step into the underworld. You will be the pride of my descendants, so I will give you 3 opportunities. Lecture. Acting. Gift. Opportunities are before you, seize them yourself. The emperor's ghost spoke again, and immediately began to speak the truth without any explanation. The method of eternal life, cultivate immortality, cultivate your mind. For immortality, you can see the sun and the moon shining together, you can see the seas drying up and the rocks crumbling, you can see the ebb and flow of the tides, you can see all the dharmas. No matter how everyone's thoughts were surging at the moment, as an incomparably majestic voice resounded, they were instantly attracted and listened attentively. The emperor's remaining soul began to teach the Dharma in an extremely direct manner. All the saints know that the truth narrated by the soul left behind by the great emperor in the eternal tomb is one of the greatest opportunities this time. Everyone used the most concentrated mind in their lives to listen carefully. On the road to Huangquan, what floated over was not only the voice of the great emperor's soul, but also mysterious miraculous runes. These magical runes flowed farther and farther with the sound. The farther away you are, the weaker the effect of the magical runes. This is also the reason why I climbed Huangquan Road before. At this moment, the difference has been revealed. Although it was extremely rare for the emperor's soul to come to Yang Hao's side at the intersection of Huangquan. But for other saints, the distance has not changed at all. The Holy Son of Tianquan who had traveled the farthest before was now the Holy Son who was closest to the emperor's soul besides Yang Hao. While he was listening to the lecture of the great emperor's remnant soul, he also watched the miraculous runes that appeared as the relic soul's lecture swayed. Scenes after scenes appeared before his eyes. When the magical runes swayed in front of Yu Heng, who was behind the holy sun Tianquan, there were already several runes carrying pictures, which shattered and disappeared as they came. The closer the Saint Sun and Saint Lady are to the rear, the rarer the images they can see. But whether it was Tianquan and Yu Heng in the front or Tianqian and Qiang in the rear, they all looked ecstatic at this moment. Great gain! What a harvest! Everyone knows that it is a great opportunity for the great emperor's soul to teach the Dharma. But when this opportunity fell on their heads, even the calmest monsters and geniuses were overjoyed. The other saints and saints who are quite far away from the emperor's soul have all gained a lot, let alone Yang Hao, who is so close at hand. He possesses the divine body of reincarnation, and his understanding is unparalleled in the world. The emperor's teachings were profound and simple, and hit the nail on the head. When he heard the Dharma, he understood it instantly and turned it into his own use. I see. Yang Hao had a smile on his face, sometimes showing a look of intoxication, sometimes showing a look of joy. The content of what the immortal emperor's soul said can be divided into two parts. The first part is a targeted lecture. According to Yang Hao's judging, what everyone heard in this part should be different. For example, what he heard was all the exercises that the holy son of Yao Guang once practiced. The soul of the great emperor, one by one, explained each of the exercises that he had practiced. All gave pointers. Even the emperor's remaining soul gave some pointers to the Juya prison suppression method. This was one of the reasons why Yang Hao judged that what everyone heard was different. Under the emperor's explanation, it was equivalent to completely sorting it out for me. Although it seems to have no effect, it is not actually the case. Yang Hao looked at his own dashboard. The skills he had mastered, which he did not need to add points by himself, were all advancing rapidly, almost breaking through the upper limit of his points in an instant. Upgraded. Yang Hao found that the skills he had mastered on the panel, such as the Supreme Killing Sword, the 9 Nether Prison Suppression Technique, the Chaos Immortal Sutra, etc., all reached the upper limit of points one after another as the Emperor lectured, and then with a flash of brilliance, he reached the realm of small achievements. At the same time, he had a deeper understanding of these techniques and received more blessings. What surprised Yang Hao was the Chaos Immortal Sutra. It was taught one by the Eternal Emperor. The endless explanations of the principles are exquisite. Although Yang Hao has been busy building the foundation since he came to this world, and it seems that he has not practiced the Chaos Immortal Sutra, it is not the case. This is a holy land heritage left by the great emperor, and it naturally has its own mysterious. In the past, even if Yang Hao did not practice deliberately, this Chaos Immortal Sutra would operate on its own, constantly enhancing Yang Hao's foundation and longevity. So that's it? Under the emperor's explanation, Yang Hao gradually realized that the Chaos Immortal Sutra was not the technique he needed to practice now. In fact, even if he has established the foundation now, he has not yet reached the threshold to practice the Chaos Immortal Sutra. This technique must at least reach a high level before it can take advantage of it. No wonder, in Yao Guang's original memory, his aunt only taught him the Chaos Immortal Sutra, and then never urged him to practice this technique. Yang Hao suddenly became enlightened and benefited a lot. The other part of the emperor's lecture was what everyone heard. This part of the content is about the emperor's insights into the formation realm and the formation evolution realm. The formation can be sealed. A prince can become a king by forming and formation. The so-called formation realm and formation realm refer to the prince level and the king level. After the foundation is built and the sea of spiritual energy is formed, spiritual power is born. Countless human ancestors have gone through endless years of research and finally figured out the most efficient way to utilize spiritual power. It's the spiritual power array system. Countless human ancestors visualized all things and projected them into the sea of spiritual power within their bodies, using their spiritual power to transform all things into runes. In the end, by turning all the spiritual power into runes and evolving them into a killing array, you can become the most powerful combat power. It is precisely with this system of terror that our human race stands tall among all races and becomes one of the strongest races. The formation state is the process of visualizing all things and transforming them into runes. The formation realm is the process of forming the most powerful killing formation. A great emperor's experience of these two realms is naturally extremely precious. Every word is a piece of good advice that requires other monks to spend hundreds of thousands of years to understand. Originally, after Yang Hao cast the foundation, some are confused. The time is too short. He came to this world, seized the body of the holy son of Sheikh Light, and practiced cultivation all the way to rise. Although the opportunity was against the heavens, his understanding of cultivation was not deep. As soon as he entered the formation realm, naturally there were many confusions in his heart. Yang Hao listened to the emperor's most profound and simple explanations. He gradually understood that many problems were solved and he knew how to go faster and farther in the future. Of course, the most precious thing was the elegance in the void. A series of magical runes. Among these magical runes, there are many creatures, races, and wonders that the eternal emperor imagined when he traveled across thousands of mountains and rivers in the past. Many of the scenes are unique, even among the Zhiwei stars. It can be said to be extremely precious and rare. It is precisely because of these magical runes that the gap between the many saints and saints who entered it has widened. Ha 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 ha. Today, Yu Hung, gathered in the Supreme Killing formation and broke through to become the Supreme King. Thank you so much, Emperor. At this moment, a voice of ecstasy came.